It looked like a tornado coming, big black clouds, dust coming across the desert there. It was terrible. You couldn't breathe. You'd put something over your face, a handkerchief, and try to breathe through it, and you spit out mud balls.
25,000 square miles of farmland became known as the Dust Bowl. For farmers who'd been suffering through their own economic crisis since the 1920s, it was the final blow. Leaving their farmhouses and barns to rot, they fled westward for the Promised Land, California. Dust-weary farmers joined millions of other penniless people who were wandering the country looking for a second chance. The transportation of choice was the freight train. Riding the rails was dangerous. The trains were patrolled by vicious guards. But the price was right.
When they're going to leave, they give you the highball, and that's 2 shorts and a long. Man, you better get ready then, because he's pulling out.
Trouble lies in sightless pools along the way I've taken. Sightless windows stare the empty streets. No love beckons me save that which I've forsaken, and the anguish of my solitude is sweet.
The actor Robert Mitchum wrote his poem in 1932 when he was just another teenager in search of salvation.
At the time, there were so many people on the train that the train crew couldn't walk the tops. I met former bankers, college professors, all sorts of people riding freight trains. A lot of them didn't really have a destination. They were just trying to get away from where they were.
But everywhere they got to seemed just as hopeless as the place they'd left behind.
Numbers of towns would arrest those people who came there. There was particular concern about what were called the wild boys of the road.
President Hoover sent undercover agents to ride the rails and assess the danger. One of them was a young law student named Melvin Belli.
You saw a part of America at that time that gave fear to everybody in Washington. There's something wrong with the country, and it's so wrong that these people are going to want a revolution.
Strikes and protests were spreading, becoming angrier and more violent. Bill Wheeler was a 19-year-old truck driver when he witnessed a demonstration in New York.
The square was just filled with mobs of people. They were demonstrating, it turned out, for unemployment relief, unemployment benefits. And the police and the firemen were mowing them down with fire hoses. The cops were beating them on the head. It was unbelievable.
Radical movements like the Communist Party were gaining influence and converts. President Hoover misread the danger signals and still did nothing to ease the suffering.
We are convinced that we have overcome major financial crisis. A crisis in severity unparalleled.
For some, the loss of faith was so profound that they simply fled the country. 3 years after Joseph Stalin had predicted the death of capitalism, 100,000 Americans moved to the Soviet Union to help build communism.
There was work for anybody that wanted to work. There was none of this going around with your hat in your hand and tears in your eyes begging for a job. It seemed to be a land of great promise at that time.
This was the only time in history that more people were leaving America than coming to it. In time, the Great Depression spread like a virus far beyond American borders.
Hunger marches, signs of the political times.
Charitables ont créé en plein centre de Paris cette soupe populaire.
In Germany, the situation was becoming dangerous. The Depression only made worse the already harsh conditions brought on by Germany's loss in World War I.
There was real poverty. There was mass unemployment. And because of this, there were protest marches, demonstrations, street fightings. The unemployed people, they walked through the town and they shouted slogans, give us bread, give us work.
There was so much unrest, so much disorder. We needed a powerful leader, a powerful man to lead us out of it.
The first time I saw the Nazis, they marched around in town with brown shirts on, they had proper uniforms and they had music and they had flags. And I remember how it impressed me, something military. And we children, we ran along them and tried to sing their songs.
The leader of the Nazi movement knew instinctively that Germany's suffering was his opportunity. Adolf Hitler told the demoralized Germans that he could cure what ailed them.
His speeches, they were rousing. He started always off quietly. Then he talked about ordinary things and then he worked himself up, saying something like, our enemies, they think we are the footmat of the world, and I promise you, I will erase all that. We demand our place in the sun, which is rightly ours, and I will lead you there. I will lead you there, I promise it. We had tears in our eyes.
In 1932, Hitler's rapidly growing Nazi party took 37% of the vote in parliamentary elections. Though not a majority, he had outpolled all the other parties. Hitler used his new strength to seize the chancellorship of Germany and destroy opposition to his rule. On January 30th, 1933, his followers celebrated his ascension to power with a torchlight victory parade through Berlin. Propelled by hard times, the Nazi era had begun.
The procession moved on through the Wilhelmstraße. Martial music could be heard. The torchlights were gleaming and there was a strange light in the street. And there was this atmosphere of irreality almost. It's almost black magic. Hitler was able to arouse the masses in such a way that they forgot reason.
But he had charisma, no doubt about that. And he promised the people that they would get work. People were desperate, you see. People being desperate, they will run after a man like Hitler.
Es rund 1,2 Millionen zurückgegangen.
1932 was also a year of decision for Americans. Republican President Herbert Hoover campaigned for re-election, only to find that everywhere he went, his name had become synonymous with failure. Shanty towns of unemployed men were now called Hoovervilles. Newspapers were Hoover blankets, empty pockets, Hoover flags.
The very first task of this country is to see that no man, woman, or child shall go hungry.
It was said of Hoover that even dogs took an instinctive dislike to him.
We have yet to go a long ways into capture.
And in the 1932 campaign, one man wired him, vote for Roosevelt and make it unanimous.
Strategy which we have established is
California, cast 44 votes for Franklin D. Roosevelt.
New York Governor Franklin Roosevelt was the Democratic Party candidate. He had been struck by polio in 1921. He was known more for his charm than his accomplishments. Most people were not sure what he meant when he promised a new deal to the American people.
Friends, the time has come.
Neither was he. But Roosevelt appeared optimistic, confident, and he wasn't Herbert Hoover.
Our campaign slogan, Sissy.
Happy days are here again.
Good, that's right.
Roosevelt won in the greatest electoral landslide America had ever seen. And he faced perhaps the greatest challenge ever presented to an American leader. The 4 million unemployed of 1930 had turned into 16 million by 1933. 25% of the American workforce.
I mean, the American economy was in free fall. Economists disagree to some extent on this, but we could have lost everything in 1933. It was that bad.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
On Inauguration Day, nearly 100,000 people braved a cold March morning to hear what the new president would do.
This great nation will endure as it has endured. Let me assert
That magnificent resonance coming out.
the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
We have nothing to fear but fear itself. And everybody would look at each other. They'd nod their head.
Let us unite.
And when he'd say, my friends, everybody could feel he was talking to him. That was one of his friends. That was one of his people.
And me, a little black boy, down in Georgia, hearing that voice over the radio, you know, I felt it. It wasn't that he told it to Daddy and Daddy told it to me, or told it to Mama and me. No, he was talking to little Ossie sitting there listening to him. He could, through the magic of his voice and radio, reach out and involve you in the great adventure of making America work again.
Roosevelt moved decisively to restore confidence in the country's financial system. In one daring move, he closed the nation's banks and ordered the Treasury to rush them $2 billion in new currency.
Let me make it clear that the banks will take care of all needs.
The reaction was to his closing of the bank, thank God, somebody had come in and had done something.
When the banks reopened, deposits easily exceeded withdrawals. Rescuing the banks was only the beginning. In his first 100 days in the White House, Roosevelt moved at a breathtaking pace, regulating business, helping farmers, pumping new money into the economy. It was the most massive intervention in the lives of the American people the country had ever known. Roosevelt put people on the government payroll when private business didn't hire them fast enough. The wild boys of the road became part of the Civilian Conservation Corps, planting trees and building roads across America.
They shipped us out to the bottom of Grand Canyon. We'd build trails, you know, for people coming in sightseeing. We got $5 a month and they sent 25 home for your family to live on.